Hello and welcome to the next section in our quest to conquer freeCodeCamp. In this live stream, we're going to look at the Json APIs and Ajax section. Oh boy, how to pronounce. So let's see what is it about. We only have I started this live stream very very badly. Someone cut this intro out. Alright. We only have 10 sections, so that should be pretty fast to cover. Let's see. Okay. API stands for Application Programming Interfaces, and they help programs interact with other programs. There are tools that computers use to communicate with one another, in part to send and receive data. You can use API functionality in your page once you understand how to make requests and process data from it. Programmers often use Ajax technologies when working with APIs. The term Ajax originated as an acronym for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. It refers to a group of technologies that make a synchronous request to a server to transfer data, then load any return data into the page. An asynchronous process has a couple key properties. The browser does not stop loading a page to wait for the server's response. Also, the browser inserts updated data into part of the page without having to refresh the entire page. Yeah, so that's a nice way to create SPAs, single page applications. The user experience benefits from a synchronous process in several ways. Pages load faster since the browser isn't waiting for the server to respond in the middle of the page render. Requests and transfers happen in the background without interrupting what the user is doing. When the browser receives new data, only the necessary area of the page refreshes. These qualities especially enhance the user experience for single page applications. Hello Ivan, welcome to the live stream. And welcome all of those of you who joined. Alright. The data transferred between the browser and server is often in a format called JavaScript Object Notation, or Json. JSON resembles JavaScript object literal syntax, except that it's transferred as a string. Yeah, you made it. Once received, it can be converted into an object and used in a script. This section covers how to transfer and use data using Ajax technologies with a freeCodeCamp API. Alright, hopefully that's the longest text we have to read. Oh well, I have to read. You're not reading anything, you're just listening. Handle click events with JavaScript using the onClick property. But we did that before? Well, I guess that these sections are not are somehow thought to be standalone sections or certifications. So even though if we learned about onClick and we learned about document and all that JavaScript part, they go over again, which is probably nice for those who just go to this section. I don't know. You want your code to execute only once your page has finished loading. For that purpose, you can attach JavaScript event to the document called DOM content loaded. So basically this is like jQuery ready or the document ready function. Here's the code that does that. So add event listener DOM content loaded. You forgot these things. Too much React, yeah. So it's nice to go back to the basics once in a while. You can implement event handlers that go inside the DOM content loaded function. You can implement an on-click event handler, which triggers when the user clicks on the document with ID getMessage. I haven't added an on-click event like this probably ever. I always say add event listener. Okay, I guess. Add a click event handler inside the DOM content loader function for the document with an ID of getMessage. Okay, getMessage, the document, getElement by ID, getMessage, and I usually do something like this, button, and then button add event listener, click, and the function. Now this function should run alert. Hi. Okay, so it works. Awesome. You should add an on-click event handler. Seriously? There is it. Okay, let's do it their way. Okay, so that's better. Hey Benjamin, yo. Change text with click events. Okay, so this is not that much of JSON and JSON APIs and Ajax so far. Add the code inside on-click handler to change the text inside the message element to say hello, not hello. Here is the message. Okay. I guess we could copy this document getElement. Nah, I don't like getElement by class name. So what I'm going to do is document the query selector and this with a dot, and here we're going to say text content will be what? Here is the message. Text content, inner text. So this is after the React module or no particular order. Yeah, this is the next certification actually. So why no work? Document query selector message. Guess we could use all with 0. Or we could just do what they did here. Oh wait, it should work, but we need to click. Duh. Yay. Look at that. You should use getElements by class name method. Why? Tell me why. Okay. Good. Get JSON with the JavaScript XML HTTP request method. I haven't used this method for years, if I ever did. Whoa, look at that. New request, open. Get, send, unload. Whoa. Never actually did this. I guess by the time I was working with JSON and APIs, they had on jQuery we had already. Is this kind of dated? Yeah, it's an older way to do it. I use fetch. I use Axios when I'm working with React, but then I switched to fetch because you have fetch on the browser API, so I don't want to add Axios. All right, so you should read this if you want. Fetch for life, yeah. JSON transmitted by IP and sent by bytes, and your application receives it as strings. These can be converted into JavaScript objects, but they are not JavaScript objects by default. The JSON parse method parses the string and constructs the JavaScript object described by it. You can request the JSON from freeCodeCamp's cat photo API. Here's the code. So we create an XML HTTP request. We open a connection, I think that's how you say it. We open a GET request to this API endpoint. Not sure what this does. The third element is boolean value of true, makes it an asynchronous request. Okay, so this is asynchronous. Nice. Then the sender sends the request. Finally, the onload event handler parses the returned data and applies the JSON stringify method to convert the JSON object into a string. Well, isn't it convert the JSON, the string variant of the object inside an object? Oh no, we are parsing, yeah. Okay. And then we're using stringify to make it a string. Okay. I'm not going to spend that much time here, but well, basically nowadays, instead of all these, let me copy this over. You would do something like fetch, then you put here the URL. You don't put the method because it's a get by default, and you have --then comes back a response, and you do json.parse, or no, res.json, like that, and then another then, and here you have the data. Data is in res, something like that. So this is how I do it nowadays. Alert res.data or res. Oh, fetch, yeah, this looks right? Who knows, maybe they don't allow fetch here, I don't know. Alright. Update the code to create and send a GET request to the freeCodeCamp cat photo API. Then click the GET message button. Oh, so this doesn't work because it's inside our onClick event. So yeah, object. We have 3 objects, an array with 3 objects. And this code did the same as this code. Well, except the part this. Okay, so if we do this now, is the same. I wonder if they let us. Oh, look at that, it works with fetch. Haha, nice. Oh, look at that. So basically we are learning about fetch now. Class name should be less resource intensive than query selector. Oh, really? That's a good thing to know. Good, I didn't know that. But for me that looks better. But probably yes, considering the fact that query selector works with the CSS selector sort of, so it probably has a lot of calculations going on. Alright, another way to request external data is to use the JavaScript fetch method. It is equivalent to XML HTTP request, but the syntax is considered easier to understand. No, really? I wouldn't say that. Here's the code for making a GET request. So we have the URL, the response which comes back. with the JSON function. We can call it, and then we have another response which gives us back the data. Okay, if the request was successful, then that method is executed. Then the then method also returns a promise, which is handled by the next then method. The argument in the second then is the JSON object you are looking for. Now it selects the element that will receive the data by using getElementById. Okay, then it modifies the HTML. Alright, update the code to create and get and send a GET request using the fetch. Okay, let's type it out. So fetch, we need this URL that we can copy, and then we get back a response, and then we get another promise with the data, and we want to put that data inside the element with an ID of message. In our HTML will be json.parse stringify, because it's an object, that data. So now if we're clicking, we should get the same thing. Oops. Your code use then to convert the response to JSON. Should use that. Uses. What? What's wrong? Then. Can you see the flaw? It's interesting. Well, I guess we can copy this. Okay. Looks exactly the same to me. Is because it's not response. Really? Okay, that's oh well. In the previous challenge you saw how to get JSON data from the freeCodeCamp cat photo API. Now you'll take a closer look at the return data to better understand the JSON format. Recall some notation in JavaScript. We have arrays, objects, and strings. No strings attached. Understanding the structure of the data that an API returns is important because it influences how you retrieve the values you need. On the right, click the Get Message button to load the freeCodeCamp cat photo API JSON. Alright. The first and last character is a square, so that returns an array. The second character is an object. JSON stringify. Does it have that thing null and 2, which added some spaces? Yeah. So you can see we have one object, we have another object, and we have the third object. Okay. We have key value pairs. We went through that. Yeah, so basically we learned about how text is an object before. If you don't know, in the description you can find a playlist with the JavaScript section on freeCodeCamp, and you should look at that. For the cat with the ID of 2, print to the console the second value in the codenames array. Alright, so we have the JSON. Oh, they converted back to this thing. Console.log. JSON, no, yeah, JSON. Then we want the second ID with ID 2. Let me see this again. With ID 2. Okay. JSON.id. So have an array of objects. Okay. Guess that. Print to the console the second value of the code names array. Code names second value. Lucky. Nothing new till now. Convert JSON data to HTML. Okay, this could be counted as something new, sort of. Now that you're getting data from a JSON API, you can display it in the HTML. You can use a for each method to loop through the data, since the cat photo objects are held in an array. First declare an HTML variable, then loop through the array, and we're going to append to this HTML the tags we want. Alright, with the keys and the key values. Okay, using the object keys. Oh, and we're looping over the keys. Alright. Note, for this challenge you need to add new HTML elements to the page, so you cannot rely on text content. Instead, you need to use inner HTML, which can make a site vulnerable to cross-site scripting attacks. Oh, really? Interesting. Add the for each method to loop over the JSON data and create the HTML elements to display it. Here is some JSON, example JSON. Alright, so we have the HTML here. First, we want to go over the JSON. For each value, let's use an arrow function. For each value, const key val. I'm not sure why they... Oh, I guess they use the keys and then loop over, but we could just as well do object keys of val. So we're looping over the array. We have an array of objects, and then we go inside the object and take all of the properties. So object keys that for each key we want to do what? HTML plus equals, and I'm going to use a template string because it's much cooler. So div class cat, and inside we're going to do what? Oh, actually these HTML yeah, so basically this should go here with the div, and inside here we're going to add just the what is related to this object. Strong. Here we're going to have val of key, and after it we're going to have val of key. So the object, which is val in this case, and we want to take the property. At the end we want to add this HTML div ending. I also see that they have a break line, so that's it. Alright, so that should be it. Let me put it here. So we're looping over the array, getting the this is the object. We're getting the keys from the object, in the strong tag we're showing the key, we're showing the key and the key value here. I mean the object value, but that key. All right, let's see what's happening. We have an ID. Okay, the break line. Oops. I didn't add the break line correctly. That's interesting. Break line, break line. I want to go on the next line. All right, no, still there. Oh. Then I should add it here. All right. So we have ID 0, image link is this, alt text is this, and code name is this. Another ID, image link, and so on and so forth. Nothing really fancy here. Render images from data sources. The last few challenges showed that each object in the JSON array contains an image link. Okay. Well, yeah, basically that's also using the data we have. Add code to use the image link and all text properties in an image tag. We're looping over. Okay, we have the object, so we just need to do HTML plus equals image source, and inside first quotes we need to do val.image link and close the image. Let's add a tag also, an alt attribute, sorry, which should be val.alt text. All right, and let's close that, get the new message, and look at that, we have Tiffany cats. Good. Next, so far we're basically just manipulating data from an API, but in reality that's pretty much it for the API, right? So you have the, well, on the front end, when it comes to the API, you just call an API and then get data from it, and then you manipulate it to show it on the screen. Or there's another thing, not sure if they will show us, if we want to push data to the server, so the post request. Oh, that was loud. All right. If you don't want to render every cat photo, you can get from the API. You can pre-filter the JSON before looping through it. Okay, we learned about filtering, so nothing new here. We want to set the JSON to a filter. Okay, this is not the best approach, but so we want to filter over the array and only get back the item with the ID of ID of 1. Oh, remove. So then if the ID is different than 1, we want to filter those. Let's see. If we don't have this, we get the grumpy, but if we filter it out, it will be removed. I guess we could also do something like val ID greater than 1, and then we'd only get the first one. All right, 2 more to go. Get geolocation data to find the user's GPS coordinates. All right. Interesting. Another cool thing you can do is to access your user's current location. Every browser has a built-in navigator that can give you this information. The navigator will get the user's current longitude and latitude. I'm going to go over those, Joy. Remind me at the end if I don't. Okay? If I forget. Oh boy. These live streams are tiring. Okay. The navigator will get the user's current longitude and latitude. You will see a prompt to allow or block the site from knowing your current location. The challenge can be completed either way, as long as the code is correct. By selecting allow, you will see the text on the output phone change to your latitude and longitude. Okay, so you can come to my place. First, it checks the navigator geolocation if it has the object. If it does, it gets the current position on coordinates latitude and coordinates longitude. So yeah, this get current position requires we get access to the position object, and we can get the latitude and longitude using the dot notation. Add the example code inside the script tags to check a user's current location. Okay, so let's type it out. If navigator, if gator geolocation, if we have that, then we want to get current position, and we pass in an arrow function which has a position. All right, now, oh, look at that, already wants to know my location. Okay, document get element by ID data, and we want the inner HTML to be latitude plus position dot coordinates dot latitude plus longitude plus position dot coordinates dot longitude. This is pretty big. And let's add some stuff here. Okay, so now you can see where I live. Move faster. Okay, post data with JavaScript HTML HTTP request. So hard to pronounce. Okay, so far we had get, now we have post. And whoa, look at those, ready state, status, response. Whoa, so much stuff. Fetch makes it so easy. I don't know, for some reason I just don't want to get into this. It's old and I don't know if someone uses it, so just complete this and be done with it. Update the code to create and send the post request, then enter your name in the input box and click send message. Your Ajax function will replace reply from server with will be here with the reply of the server. In this case, it is your name appended with loves cats. Alright, let's just copy this. Sorry, now let's say Ivan. Doesn't work? Apparently Ivan doesn't like cats. Oh well. Yeah, so this is basically it's a very basic approach, and as I said, the XML HTTP request, I haven't used it. By the time I went into using APIs like 5 years ago or so, back then I used jQuery to make Ajax request, and nowadays we have fetch. So kind of pointless to know those. Well, anyway. Okay, now let me go back to where it was. Fetch. Yeah, so Joy asked about json.stringify and json.parse. Alright. You can send JSON objects as objects to through the API. So you can't send it like that. The API will, to the server, no, it's not anything more. So we're done with this part. It was a pretty simple one. So the API will need the string format of our object. So we'll take your object and pass it inside json.stringify. I meant the methods. Probably post template. Wait, so I'm wrong. The json.stringify will stringify your object. You don't have to pass through an array, through an API. You're going to use json.stringify, for example, for local storage and session storage. To basically json.stringify, so we have an object like that. And here we have A1, B2, C3, something like that. And in order to store this to local storage, not to API, you can pass to API an object. But to local storage, for example, well, depends on the API. It might want a string version of the object, who knows, depends how it's implemented. But if you want to convert this to a string, you will do json.stringify object. And let me show you how this looks like. Stringify object. Oh, we need to click the button. Okay, you can see that it transforms the object. Basically, this is a string now. And after you convert it to a string, you passed into local storage, for example, but then you want to retrieve it. So in order to retrieve it and convert back the string to an actual object, so you can work with it like an object, you would use json.parse, which is the exact opposite. So console.log, let's store it. Const string will be JSON like this. So now it's a string, and then json.parse will be like that. And we need to click the button. Yeah, you can see that this is basically a string. It's not highlighted here nicely. Let me show it here in the console. This looks much better. So a real world scenario for this would be if you want to work with local storage, session storage, and cookies. I think they also, you can see that this is a string, the first one, and this is the object. Also, you can have an array. The only thing you can't have is functions. Hey, why can't I type now? Okay, so apparently I can't type anymore. Alright, so that's it. It was an easy section, maybe too easy, but in principle, considering that on the front end, that's pretty much what you do most of the time. You get data from the server, so you call their API, the endpoint, and you receive that data. Then you put it inside your DOM, or you can send data from the user, what the user inputs. Get is to get data, and post is to send data to the server. Alright. That's kind of it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments or on Discord, and I'll happily answer. Next up will be the projects, which will be, I think, a combination of D3 with APIs. Sure, what's up, Joy? Difference between put and patch. I don't know. I mean, one of them requires you to send the entire object with the property. So for example, you have an object with name, age, and email. One of them, I'm not sure, I think it's put. Put, if you want, these are for both of them. Both of them, put and patch, is used usually to edit something you have on the server. So get is to get, post is to create, and put and patch would be used to edit. Now, put will require the entire object, even though you only change one part of the object. And instead patch, you can just send the name, for example. But for put, you will need to send the entire object with one property changed. Don't take my word for it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I know so far. So, yeah. Alright. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.